Hello everybody and thank you for joining me. This is Ciara from Ciara Designs, and today I have an Easter themed card that doesn't scream Easter, at least I don't think it does. So let's jump right in. So I did want to create kind of a little strip of color that I was going to use below the butterflies, and I had this scrap of glitter cardstock here, and it's about 2¼ inches across, and that's kind of what I aimed for. It's just a scrap that I had, so I made sure it was cut straight, and then that's what I'm going to use, and then I measured it here. And it was 5¼ inches long. So I'm going to trim down my panel to go inside of it, just like a not even 1/4 of an inch, maybe an 1/8 of an inch smaller, so that I have a little white border going all the way around. But you guys know, if you've been with me for a minute, I do tend to eyeball my measurements. I don't do exact measurements. I generally just work with what I have, and then I kind of go from there. So you can see me here just kind of testing how much of a little layer it's going to give me around the colored piece, and then that's what I'm happy with. And then I'm going to go right into ink blending on top of it. I love Oxide inks. I find them to just be some of the best for ink blending. I think that they turn out stunning, and they are my favorites. So I do tend towards them, but any inks would work for this. And I'm going to use 4 colors I feel really work well with Easter or spring, however you want to think about it. But I think they work really well for that lighter kind of pastel color palette. And for that, I used Spun Sugar, Shaded Lilac, Tumbled Glass, and Shabby Shutters. And I just think that this turned out really pretty. I tend towards bold, vibrant colors, but there's really something about pastels that are just stunning. And I had a lot of fun kind of trying to work in a palette that's not my norm. If you guys have been with my channel for a while, you know that I do tend towards very bold colors, just because I find them very eye-catching personally. But there's no right or wrong color palette. Like, I'm intentionally making this a more pastel color palette because I want it to lean itself towards an Easter card. So that's kind of what I was going for. But you could easily change this up and have it be, several shades of blue or several shades of pink, however you want to do it. Ooh, and then it would be a really cute baby card. Anyway, sorry, got a little side tangent there. And then I did splatter on a little bit of Perfect Pearls, just because I like the little bit of shimmer and shine in the background. I think it's really stunning, so I do tend to add that to my blended panels. And then for the kind of focal of this card, I chose to use the Tim Holtz Brushstroke butterflies. And you can see here there's 3 dies because there's 3 butterflies, but the die cuts out the whole of each die set. I don't know if that makes sense. So on that one die plate, there is the butterfly and the antenna, like the body of the butterfly, and then all of the added pieces that would be like the layers of the butterfly. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. You'll see it here when we get into actually adhering the pieces, but the die kind of cuts out everything that's needed for that butterfly. That I kind of wish it wasn't like that. I can see why, because you only have 3 dies and it gives you everything you need. But it's very, very rare that I cut what I need out of one cardstock. So I tend to have to kind of finagle it like you see me doing here. I wanted the bodies out of that same white glitter cardstock I'm using to mat that colored piece. So to cut them, I grabbed like extras of the glitter cardstock that I had sitting aside, and then I had to kind of run it through my die cutting machine with it kind of like, because I didn't want the whole butterfly in pink and white glitter, because it would have been a waste of that cardstock, right? So I kind of just wanted the body, so then I had to kind of align them a bit oddly, and it didn't cut properly the first time, so I ran it through a second time, and then I had a lot more luck getting the bodies to kind of pop out. But I find just because of how the butterfly dies, they're all together on one die, I end up having to kind of jimmy rig it a lot, because I don't want, I've never done my butterflies all out of one layer of like one type of cardstock. Maybe I should do what, white on white would be really interesting with like a cool background. Maybe we'll have to try that. But I personally myself have never die cut the butterflies out of all of one cardstock. So I end up having to kind of finagle the dies every time to get them to kind of lay where I need them on the cardstock, because I don't want to waste a whole bunch of cardstock cutting out pieces I don't need. So that is my one little gripe about this die set. But the die set's so beautiful that it's not even a big gripe. I just work with it the best that I can. And then here I have some pearlescent vellum. So I wanted my butterflies to be cut out of vellum. So the base of the butterfly is just regular, like a heavier weight vellum. And then this is going to be the detailed part that's going to have all kind of the extra pieces that go on top of the butterfly. And you can see a lot of them stuck to my magic mat. So it was kind of easy to kind of separate them from that. But some of them did get stuck and I had to again kind of finagle it out of a piece of pearlescent vellum just to get it to work, but it did work in the end. And I think that the butterflies are stunning, so it was completely worth the effort that it took. But it was a bit of a like trial and error trying to get the paper to let go and trying to get the dies in the right spot so that I could cut to what I wanted. And then I'm just going to adhere it. So I did choose to use liquid glue. Generally, I don't with vellum. However, I felt like I could get away with it for this because I used so little of it and kind of spread it around as good as I could to make sure every area would adhere. So I'm trying really hard to just use a little bit of glue and then kind of make sure that it covers the majority of all of the areas so that I don't have to worry about it kind of oozing out and around and sitting on top of the vellum. Hopefully that makes sense. So once the glue was dry, I think that it looked really pretty because you get this shimmery effect from the pearlescent vellum, which also kind of distracts the eye from the glue that's behind it. If I was gluing regular vellum, I try really hard not to use liquid glue if I can avoid it because regular vellum has nothing to distract the eye. So you can see the glue sitting underneath it. But with this, I kind of like got away with it because the glittery or pearlescent vellum sitting on top kind of hides it. And then when I adhere them to the actual panel, I'm going to adhere where the body is only. So the white glitter piece hides it on the card. So you can't actually see any of the glue. I mean, if you looked really close and knew what you were looking for, you might see a little bit of the glue. So if you didn't want that at all, you could use like a Xyron sticker maker. But for all those tiny pieces of the shadow area on the butterfly, I felt like it was just worth going in with as little glue as possible and just doing it that way, but completely up to you and what you would prefer to do. So I did adhere then my colored panel just down to my glittery piece, and I didn't cut anything out of the center. You can if that's a concern. It's not a big piece. It was a leftover scrap already. I wasn't really worried about it, and I knew I wanted to prop it up with foam tape. So I'm not a huge fan of having like sagging in the middle. I know that doesn't bother some people and they don't care. So by all means, if you have a rectangle die and you can cut out the center, go for it. I just generally don't because I really don't like it to sag. So I tend to just leave my pieces intact, but I mean, completely up to you. I'm not a fan of wasting product either. So it's kind of like that finding the happy medium. But I chose to just leave it as it was. And then I'm going to adhere my Big Mama foam tape. And this foam tape is phenomenal. I love this because it's not only is it very thin, which is awesome because it gives you dimension without bulk, but it also allows you to kind of, if you haven't pressed it fully down, you can actually move it. Like here you see that I couldn't quite get it aligned where I wanted it. So I ended up kind of lifting this up, I think 2 or 3 times before I was happy with the placement. And then you just press it down and it'll stay where you wanted it to go. So I am a big fan of that foam tape. Other foam tapes I've worked with before are very strict. You can't lift them. Once they've touched, you're done. Like they're stuck. Whereas this one, it does give you just a touch of wiggle room, which I really appreciate because generally I don't adhere things straight. And then for my sentiment, I brought in the Tim Holtz note quotes, and I just chose a sentiment that said Easter time. I mean, you could replace with anything. It could be spring, it could be birthday, it could be thinking of you, it could be, this could be so many different sentiments. I chose Easter because of course Easter is coming, and I wanted to kind of make an Easter card that wasn't in your face Easter. I mean, I'm sure that I will make, Easter cards with rabbits or whatever to coming, but this, I wanted it to be kind of subtly Easter, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what I was trying for. I mean, this could be a spring card too, as of the color palette and whatnot, and the butterflies. I mean, you can put butterflies on pretty much anything and it just elevates your card. I love it. So I adhered my 3 butterflies, and I only adhered them in the center where the body is, as I said, so that the wings are still popped up. And I made sure that they stayed within the border of the card. So that's why you see me kind of turning that top one just a touch so that I'm not worried about it not going into an envelope, though you have to be careful not to catch the wings. But I have no problem getting them in an envelope. And then once they're not in my possession anymore, it's up to the next guy to worry about it or not. so I'm not too concerned. And I did go in and just add 3 little sequins around the sentiment. I just felt like it needed a little bit something extra, something subtle, but a little bit shiny because I love everything that glitters. So I had to just add a couple of little sequins. And then that's the card I made for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. I think it turned out really pretty. I'm pretty fond of this color palette and how this looks. And it's kind of a simple card that you could easily recreate for any occasion, or replace the butterflies with like flowers or something. It would look stunning. So that is the card I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you leave me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday, and I will see you guys again very, very soon. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye for now.